The word is deadlocked. The Baseball Insiders starts right now. So, Robert Murray, we are making a declaration, by the way, today, March the 7th, 2022, on the Baseball Insiders. It's not a fully... There's no way that we go back on this declaration, but we're going to do our very best to not talk lockout and tell you interesting baseball, amazing stories on all episodes after this particular episode, because we will discuss deadlocked. But since the owners and the players are going deadlocked, we are going to officially deadlock any conversation about this after today. How do you feel about that, Bert? How are you feeling? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to see you too. But all I got to say about that, Carm, is holla frickin' Luya. It's about damn time. I'm sick of the lockout talk. Yeah,
we're going interesting baseball stories. We may relive some of the great World Series. We might do some interesting free agent stuff. We will tell interesting Robert Murray insider conversations. So that's the plan. But today we are going to do our best to solve the lockout for the owners and the players who can't seem to solve it for themselves. So, Bert, you can be honestly. You can be either side. Would you like to pick a side? You can be the players, you can be the owners, or we can just do this together. But I was thinking maybe you would just take a side and I'll take a side.
Yeah, I'll take the players' side, but I think this is going to end up being easier than what both sides are making it out to be.
We're going to get it done. That's the plan. What's your read on Deadlocked and guys like Karl Ravech, who's not Mr. Hot Take guy, saying that we actually could lose the entire season, which definitely scared some people, seeing a guy like Karl Ravech tweet that.
Yeah, when Ravech tweeted that, it made me think to his previous reporting on other CBA issues, and he is very tied in, especially on the commissioner's office side. So when he says that, you got to listen. Do I think we're not going to have a baseball season in 2022? No. But is the possibility increased? Yes. And that is terrifying. And that is an absolute worst case scenario for all sides involved here.
Oh, without a doubt. So here is the tweet, just to put it out there for those who have missed it in Baseball Insider land. It is becoming increasingly apparent that we may not have a major league season in 2022 at Karl Ravech, ESPN. Both sides believe, keyword there, believe, they have made significant concessions to the other, each side points at the other as having not done nearly enough. As has been reported, the word of the day is deadlock. So Bert, in your mind, any chance? Hey, Karl, please tweet this so we'll get movement from the players. Do you think he's getting pushed to do this or vice versa, the other side? Do you think there's any chance that Ravech is being cajoled by powerful people to get on there and do what you can to move this forward?
I think there is a reason something like that gets out. And we've seen MLB try to use the media to relay a message and try to get the players to panic, and the players have seen right through that so far. This one is a little bit scarier because the threat of no season is it's just not what any side wants. I think a no season would impact the owners more than the players, but there's got to be some sort of motive behind that getting out, you would think.
Yeah, I don't think he did that in a vacuum. Like, I'm just sitting on my couch and I'm going to tweet this. There had to have been some conversations. So what those conversations were, clearly I have no idea, and I'm not going to guess at it. But
no,
very interesting that got out there. And we can look at history because history does tend to repeat itself. And if you go back to 1994, how old were you in 94?
-2.
You were -2, right? I was alive and I lived it, and they went, the lockout happens in August, and you think there is absolutely no way that they're not going to figure this out and we're going to miss the World Series. But they didn't figure it out, and we missed the World Series. And so it's been that long, 94, 27 plus years until today. but you've got sides that are digging in. Now, let's look at what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
The Players Association they've dropped their proposed starting point for the pre-arbitration bonus pool to 80 million, down from 85. That was supposedly a big deal. Can you remind everybody what the pre-arbitration bonus pool is for the three people that are listening that care about that? Bert, can you break down a pre-arbitration bonus pool?
Yeah, I'm not even somebody who pays much attention to that at all, for being honest. Like, it's that insignificant to basically everybody outside of who's actually involved with it. But
right, so it's the best young players in baseball. We're putting money in a pool for them to get paid earlier. That's how I understand it.
Basically, yeah, and with arbitration and everything, it's players. They obviously they have to figure out a way to solve the arbitration issue. They've tried to figure out a different way of being paid through it. I know we've discussed previously. MLB wanted to use like the Fangraphs war and everything. That's not going to be the solution, but players want to be paid sooner, which is going to mean less salary arbitration, which I don't think either side would be. I think the players would be okay with that, because I've heard like stories for years now of how arbitration impacts relationships with the team and the player. I think Josh Hader is a perfect example of that. The Brewers crushed Hader in that meeting. The full details of that have not gotten released. Like, I'm shocked they haven't got up. But that one significantly frayed that relationship. And I don't know if it's still recovered from it. I'm sure it's gotten better, but there was a lot of talk last season about that relationship still having some work to do here.
Well, I mean, let's go back to the fan side of this.
Yeah.
If you cut off arbitration years, that means that players are going to get to free agency earlier, which
Mm-hmm.
means that teams like Milwaukee
Mm-hmm.
or any small market team that you want to name, or big market team that's overspent and just doesn't know how to manage their money,
Yep.
they will lose players earlier. So you, instead of having whoever you want to name, Eric Hosmer in Kansas City, Mike Moustakas, Chris Bryant, Javi, instead of having him for 6-7 years, you might have him for 3 years, which in my mind sucks for the fan. So and the players' contention that they should get paid earlier is correct. If you're a dynamic player, winning Rookie of the Year awards, winning MVPs, or just being a major contributor, you shouldn't have to wait till you're 30 years old when your skills diminish and or you get injured. You may still be the same player at that point, but most likely you won't be.
No. And to go off of that point, like, there's not many players who actually get to that point either. Like, the expectancy of a player's career is not that long. So when you're in the game, maximize your worth. I mean, I think that's the goal of every person in the world, but especially like when these athletes are the ones trying to earn their paycheck here.
Yeah. And so that one, not great for the fan, but there is some stuff that's being floated out here that I think is good for the fan. Now, our producer / leader / dominator, check out Fansided, TikTok especially, Sean Daly is asking us, would no MLB season boost minor league, would no MLB season boost minor league popularity / sales? Could that be a silver lining? Well, I do think that people will go see their baseball somewhere. Like, could college baseball get a boost? Yes, I think it would. Would the minor leagues get a boost? Yes, it would. Now, would that, even remotely offset the anger to the game that will happen if they really didn't play the season? Clearly not. You're not. Oh yeah, sweet. We'll make this exchange, and it's good for the game. That wouldn't be the case. But I think sure. I do think that some people will be like, well, screw you. I'll just go see whatever independent league team is around you and or the minor league. I think that's entirely a possibility. Are you planning on going to any college baseball games out there, Bert? Is there any college baseball games around you?
Yeah, there's baseball everywhere, and I plan on attending it as much as I can. So you'll see me at minor league games. You'll see me at AFL games. You'll see me at all sorts of different ones. So I'll be one of them. I won't be boosting the sales because I'll be credentialed and everything, but I'm sure you're going to end up seeing more people in the crowds, because if there's no major leagues, there's going to be a boost in other places. That's only going to end up helping it, I think.
Yeah. But also a reminder that people have lots of choices in their lives. And, I keep on saying I was supposed to be going to spring training right now. This business trip, I was going to go see a game, and I'm not doing that anymore. Oh, well, and on to the next thing. And
yeah,
no bueno para baseball. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've people out here, when I've gone out to dinner or just gone for a walk, and you just start shooting the breeze with people, you end up talking and they're like, yeah, I'm down here for what was supposed to be spring training, and there's no baseball. I'm still here trying to do whatever. And it's just the amount of conversations I've had like that, Carm, I've been more than a dozen. And yeah, they're legitimately bummed about it. And I mean, when you try to explain the CBA issues and all that, I've noticed there's one common theme. People don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly, which is why we're going to tell baseball stories after this podcast.
Bingo.
Because no one cares.
No.
I mean, it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
The other part about that is, and I'm stating the obvious here, and which is also the reason why we're not going to be doing this much more. But look, people make summer plans. I'm going to go to Fenway in June to see my cousin and see the Red Sox play. People are, this summer, I'm not doing that. I don't know if they'll be playing or not, so I'm going to go on whatever. I'm going to go to visit my long-lost aunt in Idaho, where there is no baseball, because that's
good potatoes there.
Good potatoes, outstanding scenery, a lot of incredibly wealthy people living in Idaho these days. I hear it's a hot spot. True story.
I did not know that.
No, yeah, they're all Hunter can probably confirm that, but a lot of the West Coasters, the cool hips thing to do is to get some mansion in Idaho and hang out there in the summertime. But here, let's go back on the playing field, so to speak here. Yep. This from The Athletic: the biggest move in Sunday's proposal from the players to the owners appeared to be outside of core economics. The players agreed, contingent on other things. This is where we're getting to good possibilities here, to an element the league was seeking regarding on-field rule changes: the ability for the commissioner to put in a pitch clock, larger bases, or restrictions on the shift as early as the 2023 season. So they're giving them, instead of 1 year, they're giving them 45 days to implement changes unilaterally. So let's just look at those changes. Number one, pitch clock. Good for baseball, good for fans. Let's go.
Yep.
Faster pitchers need to keep the game moving. I think everybody's on board with that. Now, larger bases. So they're trying to get stealing back in the game, more movement. And they also want the step off rule too. So left-handed pitchers can't just do a snap throw when their foot's on the rubber. So they're trying to incentivize the game that you saw more so in the 80s when Vince Coleman was running crazy and it was awesome, terrifying if you didn't have one of those players, but they want stealing back in the game. I think this is good for the fans. And the last one being restrictions on the shift, which guys like Trevor Bauer are complaining about, but that dude should stay in his lane right now. Secondly, that's what fans want too. Ground ball up the middle should be a base hit. It shouldn't be that's at least how people want to watch the game.
Yeah. And so I'm going to start off with the bigger base. I don't know if Rosenthal ended up writing how much bigger the base would be, but that would impact how teams ended up building their roster. So let's say the Kansas City Royals are an example here. When they had Terrence Gore on their roster, to have him purposely his sole purpose was to steal bases. A guy like him, a guy like Billy Hamilton becomes a lot more valuable to a team. So I'm curious how these contending teams like the Dodgers or whoever else would end up going about that and maybe trying to change up the 25th man on the roster. And I'm sure that's something that these teams are going to end up talking about behind the scenes. And then the shift, I'm in total agreement with you that the shift needs to be changed. I don't know if it needs to be completely eliminated, but you're going to end up seeing some teams. I can definitely say the Brewers are going to be one of them because they're one of the most shift heavy teams in the league. And you see their analytics people crunching numbers 24/7 behind the scenes there. So I'm sure they're going to end up throwing a fuss about it, but it's only a matter of time because the league has been pushing for that pretty hard. They want more offense in the game because they think that's going to lead to more fans. And eventually I think they're going to end up getting their way.
Yeah. And it's a little confusing. Like how are you going to do it? You're going to say that the shortstop can't line up to the left of second base, or a second baseman can't line up to the right of second. So what's the line? How far up the middle can they be?
Yeah.
It's just going to be a challenge to create exactly what they want to do, but them taking a swing at it. I have no problem with that. I think I'd rather see the way the game was back then, but I also it's amazing to me that hitters have not adjusted, that the focus on analytics and hitting home runs and getting paid because you can do that is so enormous that rather than, trying to take the ball the other way and take your single, or even just dropping a bunt down and walking to first base, we haven't seen it. Guys don't do it. So you can't tell me that the most talented people in the history of the world right now, who are good enough to make it to the major leagues, can't hit the ball the other way. I understand it maybe would take a second to get that skill set down, but I got to believe that these guys would be capable of doing it.
Yeah. And see, that's what I thought too. And I would just be really confused why these guys aren't doing it more. And then you talk to people, and then you also hear Freddie Freeman talk about it, like how difficult it is actually hitting the ball the other way. That's a skill that not many of these players have. And can you imagine, let's put us in the batter's box, for example. We have a 98 mile an hour, 2-seam fastball coming at us, and we're trying to end up hitting it the other way, or we're trying to make contact first of all, which I feel pretty comfortable saying that's not going to happen. But trying to also poke the ball the other way, I just don't see that. Obviously there are some people who can do it. Freeman is probably the best in the league at it, but that's a skill that even for a major leaguer is very difficult.
I'm kind of with you, but mostly not. I'm not saying that everybody can do it. Yeah. The dude who rips, who always pulls the ball and hits moonshots and hits 220, but hits 40 bombs, that old school guy. Okay, fine. He's not going to go the other way. But there's a lot of dudes out there who should be able to get that skill set down. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. So I'd like the baseball artificially say, okay, no more shifts because guys haven't adjusted. I don't know. It just seems like that's not necessarily going to solve things the way a lot of people want, with just requesting more balls in play. There's such a focus right now on velocity, and if you're gonna take away the minor leagues and we're just gonna evaluate who can throw the hardest and who's throwing with a weighted ball so they can get it up there at 98 miles an hour, and our starters are going to go 5 innings and we're going to go to these guys. And if they blow out, then they blow out. And then we'll just bring in the next guy who can throw really hard for however long his career lasts. Yeah. That does not help the product. All right, let's talk strictly about the money, Bert. The players did not change the proposals on minimum salaries or the CBT thresholds, the tax at the top. Yep. The union's CBT proposal starts at $238 million. Baseball was at $220 million. This is where we can start to solve this for you. Yeah. Okay. So the owners want to stay at 220 and they want severe penalties for anybody going over. Mm-hmm. And the players wanted at 238 and they want less penalties because they don't want salaries to be artificially deflated. Yeah. So $18 million in the grand scheme of things seems like nothing to me. Why can't you just split this and whatever else? I mean, that seems basic, but what do you got on this part of what's going on?
Yeah, so I'll offer a solution. I mean, it's not going to be covering all the issues, but it's going to loosely cover all the issues. And I've heard this solution from a few different people in the league, that the owners are claiming that their present day revenues are in trouble. So here's what the players should offer in return: is lower thresholds for at least the first 2 years, maybe even 3, in this new CBA for the CBT, and then have higher thresholds later on, so the owners benefit in the present while the players end up benefiting in the long haul. I don't know if that's actually been discussed, but that's something that a lot of people, or at least the people I've talked to throughout the league, believe should be something that both sides do. And I know Jeff Passan ended up writing this the other day, and he was freaking spot on about it. Is these two sides need to actually like listen to each other, not get into a public pissing match, and like actually have meaningful conversations, because what they're not doing is they're not listening to each other. Both sides are outlining exactly what they want in a deal. And yet both sides are claiming that the other is not willing to negotiate. They're not willing to like say what they actually want. And it's frustrating. It's costing us at least the first 6 games of the regular season now. And we're going to end up having games canceled later on this week. And it was all avoidable. And they just need to listen to each other and realize that there's going to be concessions that need to be made on both sides here.
Listening is key. I'm with Passan. And I think what needs to happen here along those lines, you need somebody from the player side who's reasonable. And you need somebody from the ownership side who's reasonable, i.e. not Rob Manfred. And those two should go off into a room. This is what happened in 94, or maybe 92. This is when Fay Vincent was commissioner, and he was on the radio here on the Score over the weekend. I'm listening to, and Fay was not popular, but he was like the last commissioner that was not completely just bought and sold by ownership. So it's very hard to have somebody in that role, because the players think that you're aligned with the owners, and the owners, if you're not doing enough for them, they're going to want to fire you. So it's like, that's why you ended up with Bud Selig and owner being the commissioner of baseball. But the point is that what happened there is you had someone from the player side and someone from the owner side, both who were middle grounders. They went off into their private room, had their discussion, settled it all, came out and said, okay, guys, we have an agreement, which we think is fair. And that's how it got done.
Yeah. And I as you say that, Carm, I've been trying to brainstorm who on both sides that could actually be, where it's going to be a civil conversation where they have actually like meaningful discussions and might make progress. I'm coming up empty. It's you wouldn't have heard who it was back then, though, Bert. It doesn't. These people exist somewhere. I believe it. I mean, it could be. I appreciate your optimism.
Well, I'm not overly optimistic that this is happening anytime soon, but I am optimistic that those people, there are reasonable people on both sides out there that could get it done. You just have to empower those people. End of the day.
It is. And John Heyman just tweeted this, and he said both sides believe they made major concessions and the other side has made very few. Both sides believe the other is being unreasonable, and that the only thing that they can agree on right now is that we might be in for quite a wait. That he's right. And I said it at the beginning of this. I'll say it again. Probably looking at June start to the regular season, if there is indeed a regular season, which I cannot believe I'm actually saying those words, but Carl Ravitch put that into my head.
Bert, we are going to have some amazing podcasts coming up talking about fantastic baseball stories, which means that I hate to break this to you, but you're going to have to spend a lot more time with me just talking about what baseball stories we're going to have to hang out in, because we're
Shit. Oh my God, Carl. You think that's bad news? That's like making my day. I love talking to you.
There we go.
Yeah.
Me and Bert are going to we are going to up our behind the scenes time to bring you some cool ass stories, because baseball's giving us nothing right now. So we're going to create it for you in the history of the game, damn it. And it's going to be interesting, because this shit is just not interesting. I'll leave you with this one today, Bert. The union believes, which believes teams sometimes treat the first threshold as a de facto salary cap. This is another little piece from The Athletic. Has asked for increases from $238 million to $263 million over the 5-year life deal. Now, what you said, here's the concession. Yep. Hey, owners, you want $220 million? That's cool. We'll give you $220. We'll give you $220. Mm-hmm. We'll give you $222. We'll give you $224. In year 4, we're going to $250. And in year 5, we're going to $260. That's the deal. You guys can keep that. We're going to keep it exactly where you want. You can recoup some of the losses that we've had from this lockout that you imposed, by the way, but we're going to let you recoup some of those losses and from the pandemic. 3 years, and then you can plan for the new strategy for 3 years, but then it's getting boosted up. I love that idea. I think you just made, I'm with you, buddy.
Wow. I actually got you to agree with me on something, Carm. And I'll tell, so I like the direction you're heading in throughout that entire proposal there. I think the players probably start off with 250, and they're going to definitely go higher after that. I bet you that gets negotiated down to like something in the mid 240s. And then probably in the low 250s or mid 250s after that.
Okay, fine. 220, 222, 224, 240, 250. Great.
Something like that. Yeah. But like that direction right there, I think we're onto something there. Actually, what we should do right now is call Mr. Rob Manfred and tell him like, hey, we got this for you.
Yeah. Players should absolutely, if they're doing what they say they're doing, which is like guys like Anthony Rizzo tweeting out, this is for you. He's talking to the young players. Yep. Who are not thinking about this at all. They're only thinking about, can I somehow, some way, how the hell do I get to the majors? But that's fine. I get it. You're looking forward. You're looking forward for the people coming after you. Good job, Anthony Rizzo. Good job, players. But you play the long game. You just, that's what you do. Play the long game. Get as much as you can within this particular deal. Get it as close as what you want. Don't worry about getting it in year 1. Worry about getting it by year 5. That's good. That's good advice, Bert. I like it. All right, you wanted to do one free agent that you're most excited about for our one baseball topic of the day. So hit me, buddy.
So, okay, first off, I want to say I'm not going to go with like the Carlos Correas or the Kyle Schwarbers or anybody like that. I'm going to go under the radar guy who I think is going to have an absolutely berserk market.
Wow.
So I was tempted to go with Joe Kelly, but my guess is he ends up re-signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. That interest there is definitely mutual. And I think the other team that would be most in on him, the St. Louis Cardinals, are going to end up being priced out, because I bet you he gets 2 years with an option for a third. So I'm going to go with somebody you're actually pretty familiar with, and that's Ryan Tepera. So I wouldn't use the word most excited. I think like one free agent that I'm going to really like monitor closely. His market, from what I gather, is going to be nuts. He's probably going to be the most coveted reliever by all these teams that are not targeting Kenley Jensen. And I bet you 2 years with a shot for 3 is going to end up being what he gets for a pretty lucrative sum. I'll guess $6 to $7 million a year. I'm sure that's not what you expected when I texted you this topic earlier today, but like the buzz is there for him to get a pretty large deal. And if we're going to get another one that's like under the radar, Tommy Pham. Padres love him. I know AJ Preller is a huge fan. I believe he's fully healthy now. So yeah, those are going to be 2 that I watch pretty closely here. How about you, Karen? What do you got?
So I'm going to go back in time when a young Carm, who wasn't actually that young at the time, but I was working in Kansas City as the Royals were starting to make their come up. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys that was super enjoyable was a lefty by the name of Danny Duffy.
Ooh.
All right. Now, Danny Duffy is actually perhaps benefiting from this lockout because second elbow reconstruction, and he's coming back. Tommy Johnson has passed, all that. He's on a throwing program. He's going to be ready in June. I'm rooting for him. Someone is going to take a flyer on Danny Duffy, and I hope that they get paid off in a brilliant way because that dude's a good dude.
Yes,
so
he is.
Maybe go ahead.
So from what I gather, we're probably looking at a 2-year deal for him, where it's going to be he pitches half the year with one team, with the same team, and then he ends up having a full year after that. So, my guess is we're looking at a 2-year deal for Danny Duffy, and we've seen the Dodgers do that in the past too. They did it last year with was a reliever. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but they have a history of doing that. And there's these other teams that are able to spend more than others that are capable of doing that. So I bet you we'll see Duffy end up with a contending team here.
Makes me also wonder about a guy like Carlos Rodon, who's had shoulder stuff and barely finished the season last year, but yet had a great year at the start of the year when he was healthy. Does this perhaps make him more interesting on a 1-year deal because the season's not as long? If you want to think outside the box and what he'll be able to do, this couldn't do it for 160, but he might be able to do it for 110 if we, start play June 1 or whatever. So,
because I thought he would be a great fit for the Mets because they could use a left-handed starting pitcher, but I don't think they're going to go in that direction. I would look at a guy like Kikuchi from the Mariners as somebody who they could target. Maybe I saw John Heyman report before the lockout, they had multiple 3-year offers. I don't know if any of them came from the Mets, but I could definitely see them being in on Kikuchi. That's one that a lot of people behind the scenes have been talking about.
You just got me excited about actual baseball talk, by the way. I'm enjoying it.
Let's go, baby. That's what I was hoping for, Carm.
A little free agent talk. I want to know where Carlos Correa is going. What do you got on Chris Bryant? Where's Nick Castellanos going to be? Tell me about Schwarber. Where's my guy Jorge Soler? Give me a Clayton Kershaw. So much
next week on the Baseball Insiders for the answer. Oh, how's that for a tease?
Oh, there it is. All right, come back next week. Bert, we gave one major proposal on the podcast today that should help move things along. Players look for the long term, eat it on the first couple of years, and then get something in the back end to make you feel like you did some good work for the future. That's a nice suggestion. And yes, to the owner side of this, the fact that you're looking at ways to make baseball more entertaining, so ultimately you'll get paid more, I'm okay with it, minus the way you're just trying to dilute the playoffs, which just sucks. But whatever, I'll probably enjoy it when my 14th best team in baseball that I enjoy rooting for makes it that year and think they have a chance to actually win the World Series when they have no chance, but at least they'll get to play a playoff game. Bert, keep your head up, buddy.
Always keeping my head up, Carm. We got optimism brewing over here. It's like the actual baseball talk has got the juju flowing today, so we're feeling good now.
Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, do everything you can to know when the Baseball Insiders comes on. Story time next week, and yes, just remember, baseball will be back at some point. Thanks for listening. Follow Robert Murray on Twitter, and follow yours truly at the Carm too. I really could use the followers. Thank you so much.
He deserves more than he has, I'll tell you that, folks.
Thank you, buddy. We'll see you next time.